Today we're going to talk about the law of sine. So take a moment, pause the video, and just write down the law below. Then once you're done writing it down, unpause and continue. So what's really cool about this law is that it works on any triangle if given the right info. So for like SOHCAHTOA, for example, that only works on right triangles. But law of sine can actually work on any kind of triangle as long as you have information like the ones we will have today. So let's get right into it. So for this whole chapter, you're going to need a calculator. So make sure you have your calculator ready. And notice how there are two versions of the law. Today we're going to focus on using this version right here, because this version is good for finding lengths. So right, good for finding lengths. And that's because notice how the lengths are on the top. So hopefully from geometry recall that lengths in triangles are often represented as lowercase, and the angles are often these uppercase. So these are your angles right there. So we'll focus on this first law today. Again, the other law is just the same exact thing, just flipped. So first thing we're going to do is just draw a generic triangle. So just doesn't really matter how you draw it. I'm just going to draw it generic. But in homework, you can draw it like that too. A, B, C. And it's important to note how it corresponds. It must be labeled like this respectively. Notice how angle A is directly across from side length A, B is directly across from B, and C is directly across from C. So that has to be the case, however you label your angle. So make sure you do that. Now let me get rid of that to make it a little easier to look at. Let's label. This is 40 degrees, B is 60 degrees, and A is 4. Okay, so let's start working. The goal is to figure out everything else. The first thing I want you to do is write this down. Really important. Big star. I want you to identify your, quote, pair. Now what I mean by pair is it's basically like an angle and side length partner. So for example, the pair here is right here. Notice how A, we have 40 and 4. That pair is the key to finding everything. So that's going to be our initial. We're going to write 4 over sine 40. And then this thing is going to be equal to, just pick a letter you want to find. Let's say you want to find C. C over sine C. Now you might be thinking, well, how do I find that? Because there are two variables. Well, look at your triangle. You can find C easily. This has to be 80 degrees, because in a triangle, it always adds to 180. So really, we can put 80 right there. Now to solve this, make sure you don't cross multiply. Simply multiply both sides by sine of 80. So now we get C is equal to 4 sine 80 over sine 40. And then you're going to punch that in your calculator, and you get C is equal to 6.13. And notice for lengths, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. So I'll box that. .13. Make sure you fill it in your triangle. It makes it easier for me. And then all we gotta do is now find the other leg. So go back to your pair. 4 over sine 40. That has to equal B over sine B, which is 60. Same thing, multiply by sine 60. So B must equal 4 sine 60 over sine 40. Put that in your calculator, and you get 5.39. Box that. And again, notice how we're rounding to two places. That's what we'll do today. You're going to put 5.39 right there in your triangle. And I'll just highlight everything we found today. So look at that, there's your 80, 6.13, 5.39. So let's go on to example 2. We're going to start the same way. We're going to draw a generic triangle. And again, you can just make it any triangle. This is just generic, so this is clearly not to scale. A, B, C, A, B, and C. Label it 35, B is 15, C is 5. Again, notice how we can find the last angle. Just add 35 and 15, that'd be 50, which means this must be 130. Now again, the first step, find your pair. Hopefully you can already tell the pair is going to be right here, your 30 and your 5. So you can just highlight that right there. So that's always where you're going to start. So I'll put a divider for you. Write your pair, 5 over sine 130. This should be equal to, now pick a letter you want to find. Let's say you want to find A. A over sine 35. Let's solve. Multiply both sides by sine 35. So A should equal 5 sine 35, all divided by sine of 130 degrees. So A must be 3.74. Let's fill that in, 3.74. Part 2, start with your pair. Oh, let's put that over here. 5 over sine 130. That's equal to B over sine B, which is 15. Solve for B, multiply by sine 15. So B should equal 5 sine 15 over sine 130. So B must equal 1.69. And again, you get these values by plugging them in your calculator. 1.69. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly highlight the answers we found. So there's your 130, there's your B, and there's your A. So there's your complete triangle.